What's happening, everybody? This your boy Charles Wells, aka C Wells, coming at you with another edition of SWAC Talk, the show where we cover the SWAC inside and out. And I'm just gonna talk about a report that has surfaced in the last couple of days. And like I said, this is just a report. There's nothing definitive one way or the other. Although I'm leaning more to one side than the other, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But as you can see from the ticker at the bottom of the screen, that the Southland Conference is reportedly interested in adding SWAC schools as potential members. Keyword is may. That's why I got that in caps, because that's, I don't want anything to get twisted from me, because I'm not saying one way or the other. But the report came out from a article from College AD, and I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. Before we get started, as usual, the socials are down in the description below. Facebook.com/SWACtalk, Twitter.com/SWACtalk76, Instagram.com/SWACtalk, and SWACtalk76@gmail.com is the email address. Also, SWAC Talk is a podcast, and that's where it started. So the show can be heard on anchor.fm/SWAC Talk. You can also find it on Spotify, Stitcher, Breaker, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Just search SWAC Talk, SWACtalk, one word. And you can find all my old episodes in the archives. I have episodes going back to probably like 2013, 2014. So you want to check those out, feel free to do so. And while you're here, if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and hit the button to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and like the videos, share them, and hit the notification bell so you can be alerted to any content that I upload, especially for moments like this where I kind of just drop things from when I hear it. Sometimes I do that. Other times a more structured and scheduled content. So with that being said, this report came from College AD. This was actually, I think, kind of put out a little while ago, but it's starting to surface now, that the Southland Conference, who has, if you don't know, the Southland Conference is a conference made up of teams basically in the Louisiana, Texas region, also Arkansas at this point, but they're losing 5 members to the SWAC conference, which has started a rebrand to add football to what they have as a basketball league. If you don't know, the SWAC used to play football. They disbanded when a lot of their members left to join the Mountain West in the mid 90s, and so they haven't played football in a while. They're putting together a league to have football as well as basketball, and right now, Southland Conference is a 13-team conference. It's made up of Abilene Christian, University of Central Arkansas, Houston Baptist, Incarnate Word, Lamar University, McNeese State, University of New Orleans, Nicholls State, Northwestern State University, Sam Houston State, Southeastern Louisiana, Stephen F. Austin, and Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Now, UCA, University of Central Arkansas, Abilene Christian, Lamar, Sam Houston, and Stephen F. Austin are all leaving to join the SWAC. They were supposed to leave in July of 2022, but they were able to force their way out, and they will be leaving in July of 2021. So their Southland membership is basically over. So they're leaving now, and that creates a hole, because the Southland Conference, like I said, at this point, it's still a 13-team league until they leave, but it will be an 8-team league with 6 of those teams playing football. UNO, University of New Orleans, and Texas Corpus Christi do not play football. They're basketball members and members in other sports as well, but not football because they don't play football. So right now the league is sitting on six football members, and that's like the bottom line that you have to be a automatic qualifier to the FCS playoffs. So they're holding on to that bid, but they have stated that they're looking at potential members from all other avenues as well, Division II. But anybody that moves up from Division II is looking at a lengthy transition period, because there are certain things that you have to satisfy to complete transition from Division II to FCS. So you're looking at a time period of a wait for those members to become full members, and they're basically trying to hold on because losing those teams. UCA is going to the Atlantic Sun. They're not going to the WAC. So you losing those teams, Central Arkansas and the Texas schools, shifts the balance of power from the state of Texas in the Southland to Louisiana. Now McNeese is like the big dog in the league right now. They're holding the cards. So if the league wants to keep them there, which is probably like the last stronghold to the league, if they lose McNeese, then the league is probably toast. So if for them to hold on to it, they're looking at things in schools to keep them around. And that's one of the reasons why they're looking at potentially talking to Southern, Grambling, Prairie View, and Texas Southern. And again, this is nothing's been done. And like I said, I'm going to share my thoughts on this in a minute. But they're looking at those 4 schools to keep the league in that Texas, Louisiana area. And all of those schools are basically close to McNeese and Lake Charles. Houston is only a couple hours away. So you're looking at like a 3-hour drive or so, roughly, from Prairie View to Lake Charles, maybe a little bit more, but not much more than that. Baton Rouge to Lake Charles is like 2 hours, probably like a 3.5-hour drive from up north in Louisiana to Lake Charles. So to satisfy that, they're looking at things to keep them around. And there's a push to keep all of the Louisiana schools in the same conference. Now, obviously, if you're one of those people that feels like the SWAC needs to go to the playoffs, then you're probably clapping your hands, because this is a playoff conference looking at SWAC teams, and for whatever reason, that notoriety that a lot of y'all crave would be there. But obviously, the elephant in the room, Southern and Grambling playing the Bayou Classic, which starts the same time as the playoffs. Now, with you as a league that is not concrete, would you be able to convince them to move that game to allow them to become members of your league? Because obviously obtaining Southern and Grambling would definitely help the outlook of your program and the prestige of your conference, because those are 2 of the top teams and programs in the SWAC, along with Alcorn, Jackson State, and now FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. So with those two teams coming into the fold, and Prairie View is a program, they just won the Commissioner's Cup in the SWAC, which awards the school for winning, having the most success in all athletic programs. So they just won that a couple of days ago. So they would bring in a very good basketball program, baseball, track, football is always potentially there. Texas Southern probably would be brought in as a travel mate for them. And, that Texas Southern brings in a very good basketball program and, a pretty decent at times baseball program and a good solid track program. Football obviously is not there right now, but they're in Houston, they're sleeping giant. They could be a better program in football at any given time. And like I said, bringing in Southern and Grambling definitely helps with the Louisiana schools, because that puts another 2 programs that's close to them. It gives Northwestern a school that's close to them. Southern is right by, not far from Nichols, not far from Southeastern, not far from McNeese. So that, there are positives there if you're looking at it from a Southland side. Now, my response to this is this. Seriously, man, it's like I'm all for any opportunity to expand and grow. But right now, I feel like this is not the time for that. Obviously, besides the fact that elephant in the room that I talked about a minute ago, the SWAC is on a huge upswing right now. The SWAC, visibility-wise, exposure-wise, is probably at its greatest level right now, and it can only get bigger. You just added 2 new members, and the SWAC is probably, outside of the Ivy League, probably the most stable FCS conference. They have not lost a member since the 60s. They've gained 4 members since 1997. So they were able to add Arkansas Pine Bluff, who left in return. They added Alabama A&M, and now they're adding FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. So there's no real possibility of any real shakeup. Obviously, we don't know, what FAMU's long-term plans are, or Bethune-Cookman's, but right now, this league is at its most stable, is at its point where the visibility and exposure are on a serious upswing, and I don't see anybody leaving for that. Obviously, if you were addressed about it, you definitely listen, because you always listen to any inquiries. Now, whether you go with them, that's up to you, but you always listen. But right now, I feel like that this is not a move that needs to be made. And I would politely say no, thank you. There's a lot of things that go into it, especially from the football side. Those schools in that conference would definitely benefit from having a Grambling, a Southern, a Prairie View, but especially Grambling and Southern. Those schools would benefit from having those kind of programs in their league, because that gives all your Nichols, your Southeasterns, your Northwesterns, McNeese, that gives them a certified home game that's going to draw a crowd. And if you look at pretty much every time that Southern's been to any of those schools, they draw very well. Same thing with Grambling, they draw very well. Now, the inverse is not always true. McNeese has a nice traveling fan base. They're probably not as big travel-wise as Southern or even Grambling, but they travel fairly well. The other programs, not so much. So you're looking at, bringing a lot of people to their schools, but not having not a lot of teams return to your school with fans. And then you have the two schools in Texas, Houston Baptist and Incarnate Word, who are smaller private schools who are not going to have that base to travel into Louisiana for those games. So, obviously, if the situation was out, if the SWAC wasn't as stable as it was, I think this would be a situation that you seriously at least take into consideration. But the SWAC is on the upswing, man. Y'all know this because everybody's covering the SWAC right now, and it's only going to get bigger as the visibility of the league grows. And yes, the league owes a lot of that to the great Deion Sanders in Jackson State, because he has done a lot to improve and bring more eyes to this league. But adding two schools like FAMU and Bethune-Cookman also helps. And just the fact that this is a stable league who has been making strides to grow and strengthen themselves on their own before all of this. So the league is at its best, and right now I think it's looking at its most fruitful time period. So I don't see anybody leaving, number one. And number two, I wouldn't leave right now, especially for a conference that's not concrete. You don't know what's going to happen with a league like this right now. 3-4 years from now, McNeese may be ready to bolt. They may get a better opportunity. There's a couple of conferences that are growing and trying to expand membership westward. So if something came better for them, would they dip? If they do, then you're left without probably the biggest program left in that league. So that you don't leave a for sure thing for an I don't know thing. And right now, the Southland is definitely an I don't know thing. So I don't see anything really coming from this, but I just wanted to talk about it because it's out there now. So just wanted to share my thoughts on that. And my thoughts are, nah, I'm good. So if anybody feels differently, feel free to pop into the comments. If you agree, disagree, hop into the comments. Let me know. We can chop it up there. We will be back on Sunday with our Grambling spring season recap. And man, is that going to be interesting. There will be a video on YouTube for that and a podcast episode also on Sunday. So with that being said, man, I'm Charles Wells and I'm signing out, and I'll see you guys on Sunday. Later.